door and run hot water. My sights are skewed, forgive me, Father. Sent you a text over dramatic. Got the response I wish I hadn't. I feel ashamed beneath my sleeves. Too much has changed, I have to leave. I love my family, I love my friends. And as for you, some good things end. I've made mistakes, I wish I hadn't. Things don't just change, we make them happen. I proved a point, forgave my father. Became less bitter, cause love is softer. I think I'm going off the deep end. I think I took a left when I should've took a right at the bend. I think I'm looking at the wrong trends. All these different people around me and they're calling me friend. Come on man, let's just pass the time. From amphetamine to weed, all it takes is a drive. And it's alright, I got you this time. Let's just pick up something quick, I want out of my mind. I think I'll look into some new friends. Everyone I know seems to somehow trip me up in the end. I can't wait around until then. I can turn this thing around. I just need a place to begin. Come on man, let's just pass the time. From amphetamine to weed, all it takes is a drive. It's alright, I got you this time. Let's just pick up something quick, I want out of my mind. And life's just a race against time. Try and make something pretty before I die. If I can make a dime off being honest, then I think I'll be fine. Stop stealing written on a little piece of paper. Cold turkey's what I thought, I said goodbye to my neighbor. I'm a little frantic, can't pull you no favors. But I'll smoke all of your weed and leave you with no papers. got enough to eat, and as for company, I don't have to go too far. Crashed my car last week and walked out with a new scar. I got people looking out for me, I guess I set a new bar. I never get that hurt, I guess you call that good luck. But if I'm writing honestly, I've never felt so stuck. I've been looking for work, but can't get past the loading truck. And school's just not for me, I'm in enough debt from my other bluffs. I can remember the taste of your bottom lip. I know that sounds a little messed up and sick. Can't stop reliving all the things that we did. You probably hate me for being such a stupid spoiled kid. I've tried to move on, write some new songs, but nothing's ever as good as a past. Could be my last chance to enhance my way of life, remove your heart and my mask. But I'm still leaving, sometimes seeing graduation with the rest of our class. And how I sat there with your mother, wondering if young relationships last. Our first date I made shapes with Panera's bread. And our first kiss I was so nervous, had to give me the go-ahead. Your emotions always stronger than mine. That inflection in your voice, I think I love you, I about lost my mind. December 12th, that was the day in your head. You chose it early like the way that it read. This feeling in my chest, it chains me in bed. Your pretty face, your big brown eyes, I want them out of my head.
Howdy, everybody. It is the Shoe Bros. It is Monday, May 11th. We are here live, coming to you live from Shoe Bros Unfiltered, part of ZGM. Make sure you like and subscribe to all the networks, to all the channels here on the ZGM network so that you get all the great content. I am, of course, joined live by my terrific, amazing, somewhat better looking tonight co-host. He's finally got some shape to that beard. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing good, sir. And yourself? How you been?
Oh, I'm doing good. So, for all the guests who missed you last week, you were a little bit under the weather. So, you're feeling better this week, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I just got one of those mild nagging headaches that just wouldn't go away. Just one of those, just didn't feel like doing shit headaches. Not depression, but kind of like a depression headache. I mean, I wasn't depressed, obviously, but I mean, I've gone through bouts of depression in the past, not nearly that severe, but just minor little episodes here and there, and probably why I'm as big as I am, stress eat, shit like that. But just had some little, just didn't want to do anything headaches, and I just didn't feel like, talking to you for an hour and a half, it didn't feel like it would help anything. So I chose to not talk to you for an hour and a half, and I think I did okay.
That's
And
fair.
because I'll be perfectly honest, I don't know a lot about Spygate. I didn't really follow it. It was not
Mhm.
something I really cared about.
Yeah.
And Russ knew that shit like it was yesterday. And like he's been following it from day one, knows everything about it. And Russ came on and did an amazing job, knew his shit, knew what he was
Mhm.
talking about. It, enlightened you to a few things. Me
Yep.
listening back to it, I was enlightened about a few things because I, obviously didn't know about a lot of that. So, probably it probably would have been, a good him to be a guest if I was on, but him being filling my role, he did a great job, way better than what I would have done as far as knowledge base. So I can't complain about how he did a great job. And Russ, if you're listening, watching, whatever it may be, thank you so much for filling in for me. It was you did a great job.
No, and you said it right. I mean, of course, I'm always going to go to you if you're available, right? You are the guy that's always going to be on this show. If you are available and ready to go, it will always be the Shoe Bros. But with you not being able to go, I very quickly shifted to I know exactly who I'm going to for this topic. It was very specific. Okay, this topic, I know who I want to talk to on this specific thing. And it was Russ because Russ is very knowledgeable when it comes to these issues and he understands the complexity that has it there. And I agree with you. Russ did an amazing job for us. He really brought a lot of information to that subject that yeah, there's things that I keep up with it quite a bit. I mean, I'm fairly involved in those topics, but Russ brought a lot of information that I hadn't exactly thought of in a certain way, or maybe I hadn't put the two things together, or maybe I just hadn't heard about it at all. So thank you so much, Russ. But you know what? We're back here on a normal Shoe Bros night. So it's a Monday night. We're gonna talk Shoe Bros. So we need to talk about the big thing coming up later in the week and make sure everybody's aware of that because we do have a very big interview.
Ross finally landed a whale. It took him 3 months, 5 months since we've been doing this since December, November-ish time frame,
Well,
and he finally got a whale to come on. I mean, he's had some good big fish.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but this is a whale.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be our biggest interview to date. So this is a sitting United States.
Dave South, the number 2 wing on the Thunderbirds. I mean, those are pretty big whales, buddy.
That's pretty big whales, but this is a sitting United States congressman.
But there's like 530 or something of those, right? I mean, come on. I'm just playing with you, man.
So,
It's an amazing feat.
No,
Good job.
no. So Chip Roy, who for all that don't know, he's the representative out of Texas 21, which is down pretty much every bit of Austin, between Austin and San Antonio that's not Austin and San Antonio, right? So San Marcos, Kyle, Buda, Wimberley, Buda, those areas.
Rubbed up belly.
Yeah, rubbed a belly. There you go. So, we're going to talk to him, and it's going to be a great conversation. There's so much to ask him when it comes to Congress getting back to work, or let America open, hashtag let America open, or all these other things. And he's been somebody who's been very outspoken when it comes to these stimulus bills and saying, that, okay, I'm going to hold my nose and I'm going to vote yes on this because I understand that there's portions of it that are good. But at the same time, understanding that, look, we're putting a lot of debt into our we're adding a lot of debt right now, and there's no plan whatsoever right now to pay any of this off. We have no clue how to pay this, right? There's no money in the bank for it. There's no way to get this done. It's raise taxes at this point or bail on some Chinese debt. That's where we're at.
I vote bail on Chinese debt.
Well, I'm not against that at this point, but I think we have to understand the geopolitical ramifications of that, right?
I mean, we can just point to them saying, this shit came from you. It cost us money because of that. We're not paying you back X amount of dollars that it cost us because of you.
So that's fine. I'm not against that argument. But if you're going to make that argument, you also have to understand the ramifications.
Oh, and then we got to do what our lawyers love to do, and add on what's called pain and suffering. and then was it 5 times the value? So whatever the value was that we lost because of this, multiply that shit by 5. China, good luck, pain and suffering court system. We're gonna get you. Come on, let's go. Our lawyers versus your lawyers, mano a mano, heads up. I bet our lawyers win.
I bet they've paid for more judges on the World Economic Court than we have. I bet they've bought off more judges than we have there. But the question,
we're not gonna sue them in the world though. We're gonna sue them in the U.S.
Yeah, but then we have no jurisdiction over their government to force them to pay, right? So
they're not paying. We're just not paying them.
Yeah,
we're just canceling out debt.
Yeah, and again, most of the debt's not owned by the actual Chinese government, and that's another issue. But here's my underlying point here. Okay, if you're going to do that, which okay, fine, we can have that conversation. It's not a bad conversation to have. There's legitimacy to that argument. But if we were to do that and China were to say, okay, fine, you don't get access to any of our goods manufactured here anymore. Okay. Could we withstand at this moment? Could we live without Chinese manufacturing? That's what you have to ask yourself. And right now, at this very moment, I'm not talking 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, after we've Senator Cotton has proposed bills to bring a lot of manufacturing back. And okay, I'm all for that. I've been a protectionist for a long time. I think we ought to bring back a lot of essential manufacturing here. I don't give a crap if they make Barbies in China because that's not an essential product. My kids can live without that, right? Like my daughter would be upset, but she's going to survive. But
which one?
Any of them, right?
Okay.
There's lots of them. So, but as far as medication, as far as essential elements, electronic components, things of this nature that we just can't up and go get, can't just up and make a factory here that builds this stuff, right? We can't just create this infrastructure overnight. And me and Luke had this conversation, I think you remember, over Discord a long time ago. Where
you blew my phone the fuck up. I was like, good God, y'all shut up. Make it a private message.
But in hindsight, who was right? Right?
I don't remember, nor do I care.
Okay. Well, in hindsight, I'm going to say I was right because there is.
I'm sure Luke says he was right.
I'm sure he will too. And we'll have that conversation on Friday Night Comfy Post or something. But, the point is that there are certain industries that the free market is great and free trade is great. But the words free trade are overused, okay? Because they're not real. Trade is not free. We have to give up something in order to get something. There's opportunity cost. So there's always something there. There's always a cost to doing business. And then when you're dealing with a foreign country that sets its own standards for things, that sets its own laws, its own rules, there's other costs that are associated with it. So it's not free trade. Free trade implies that I can send my goods to China with no tariffs, no penalties, no anything, right? And I can freely go in, and if my product is better than their product or cheaper than their product, I can earn their business, and vice versa. But we know that's not true. We know that China does not allow American companies to do business inside of China at a fair rate. We know that they don't take in our goods at zero penalty. We know these things to be true, but yet we're supposed to act like we're supposed to take their goods back with absolutely no tariffs, no anything. And this is where the left has freaked out on President Trump over the last couple years is, it's all about free trade and we gotta be good stewards in the in the world, and we gotta be fair. And the fair is out the window. Fair's been out the window with China for years. China has understood that we are dependent on them for a large portion of our manufacturing infrastructure. And without them, and it's okay, we build our tanks here, but a lot of the components that go into our tanks, a lot of the steel, a lot of these other things are not made here. So even though we're able to produce our own tanks, a lot of the underlying products that go into building these things are not made here. And that's where the issue is that if we start losing out on some of the rare metals that China has control of because of the Belt and Road, situation they have through Africa where they control a lot of these mines, and South America. If we are to lose these rare metals, if we are to lose a lot of this electronic manufacturing that we are relying on for our products and our goods. And it's as simple as this, right? When you look at a car, when you go to buy a car, you can actually see where every component of that car was made. So Toyota's done this for years, where they slap on the back of their trucks, made in Texas. No. The truck was assembled in Texas. The truck was not made in Texas. Most of the components of that truck were made somewhere other than Texas. Mexico, China, Japan, Indonesia, wherever.
Since it's a Japanese company, probably not China anymore, since they wholeheartedly pulled out of China.
Yeah, but the point is that a lot of these goods are made abroad, then shipped here in parcels and pieces, right? So they make every individual portion where it's cheapest to make that portion. Then they ship all of those portions here and have an American assemble it, and then they get to slap the sticker on the truck that says made in Texas. And you see a lot of Toyota trucks driving up and down the road, and I'm not bashing Toyota. If you drive a Toyota, fine. I'm not upset at you for driving a Toyota. They're perfectly reasonable trucks. They stole the Chevy 5.7 liter engine. It's the exact same engine. There's no difference in it. Toyota's is just an aluminum block. But I mean, other than that, if you drive a Toyota, fine. You drive a Toyota. They're reliable trucks. They last a long time. They're good trucks. But the point is it was not made in Texas. And we have to,
I mean, that goes back to the there's a town in China now named America, so that they can slap on a made in America sticker when it was actually made in China, but America, China. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of one of those ha situations, but funny, but not real.
So the lapel pin, so when I was running for Congress, I had a nice suit, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to get some lapel pins, and that's going to set me apart. That's going to give me some style, some flair. And so I got one, which was a yellow Support Our Troops ribbon, and I got one that was an American flag, except both were made in China. And it was like, they looked good. They looked fine. China can make American flags. But at the same time, there's certain things that we as a country, we have to be independent on, right? And one of those is fuel. If we can't produce our own oil, if we can't produce our own fuel, that makes us weak.
And there for years, I mean, the manufacturing of oil or refining of oil was just dwindling. We were losing refineries left and right.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that we had were in disrepair, being slapped together, duct tape here, duct tape there, trying to keep things together. And then only recently has that reversed, where we've started realizing, or the Democrats got out of the way and started allowing us to start opening new, better, fancier refineries that, do it at a much more efficient rate and actually produce a good quality product. Whereas before we were just having these old rinky-dinks, shitty refineries. And I think even Houston smelt better once they started opening some of these newer refineries. And that's hard to say because Houston, that refining area has got some stank to it, man.
Well, that and the football stadium and the basketball stadium and the baseball stadium, usually stinky products come out of there too. But I mean,
the Astros did win a World Series. Now, allegations of cheating, but they had a better road record than they did home record that year. So, meh. But baseball is one sport out of three.
All right, so speaking of baseball, we do have an announcement today, and it's a favorable announcement to baseball. And it's not official. It's not 100% done, but we're moving down the road towards a possibility. So today it was announced by Major League Baseball that they will try to open the season somewhere around July 4th, which would be great because July 4th weekend and baseball are pretty synonymous with each other.
Usually that's the All-Star weekend, right?
That's usually the weekend before All-Star weekend, right? But all the teams have the American logo on their the American flag logo on their hat of some form. San Diego usually wears their camo uniforms, and things of that the Navy appreciation stuff they do. So July 4th in baseball are
There's only like 5 Navy bases in San Diego.
a few, right? And if there was
Yeah.
a baseball team in San Antonio, they'd probably do some Air Force stuff, But the point is that what they're wanting to do right now, and it's not fully done, but the owners have agreed to it, and they're sending it over to the players to get the players' agreement, is that they're planning to play at half of a season, so 82 games.
And it's going to be a weird season too. It's going to be kind of different in the way that they play it. So like the AL East will only play the NL East, AL East, and then maybe the Central divisions, but they're really not going to go outside of their region. They're going to stay.
They're going to try to
within their
limit the
region.
travel.
Yeah, and then also starting with no fans in the stands, at least at first.
Yeah, which is kind of weird if you're a Rangers fan, because if you're a Rangers fan in the AL West, which is great, but a lot of AL West games start really late here. Okay.
Yeah. Is it what Oakland,
Seattle, Los Angeles, and Houston are the other AL West teams. So that means that almost 3 out of the 5 are in the Pacific time zone. So if it's a 7:30 start time p.m., that means here the game starts at 9:30 and usually ends after midnight for us. So I, for several years, watched every single Rangers game that was on television, and that got really late some nights, especially when they were playing Seattle. But if they go to play only the NL West, now we're adding San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles again, the Dodgers, Colorado and the Rockies, and Arizona. So 3 out of the 5 again Pacific time zone, 2 are Mountain time zones. So we're still going to at least be at 8:30 p.m. start time. So it's still going to be rather late in the afternoon. But regardless, we will have sports.
Live sports?
Yeah.
Live sports?
Yeah.
What?
And that right now is a humongous deal because there's so much. It's okay. So remember after 9/11, where everybody just was in this funk, where nobody knew what to do. We were just all kind of walking around like zombies trying to figure out what's next. And then we had a World Series where the New York Yankees were playing in the World Series. And we had George W. Bush come out and throw out the first pitch under much body armor. Threw a half-decent pitch, to be fair, with that much body armor because, I mean, that's pretty restricting of your movement. But that kind of brought some normalcy back to life.
You had the red, white, and blue game at A&M. You had NFL teams doing similar, style events, trying to just get people back into that normalcy, that reality of, okay, we got hit, but we're not knocked down. We can get back up.
Yeah.
We can show that we are a resilient people and that nothing is going to scare us and that we are going to dictate our terms and not letting them dictate their terms to us. So yes, definitely something that's going to help out with the psyche of people a lot. Seeing that return to normalcy, that just letting people know that they can be normal human beings again and not have to worry about all of this bullshit that's going on right now. You have a lot of people still, going, you can't go out. What if someone gets sick? And I'm just like, people get sick every day. People die every day. Just because you're scared doesn't mean I don't get to have my liberty.
Exactly.
And that's been a big point of contention in and around the community, in and around the social medias, in and around the family, with our mother having surgery the other day, which, thank God, mom's surgery went well. She's recovering. Hopefully be back on her feet before too long, but did have knee surgery, so is going to be down and out for a little bit. and now is seriously considering not having the second one anytime soon because not
Yeah.
enjoying the first one.
Yeah,
But
when I had my first back surgery, it was like, do I really want to do this again? This sucked, and I'm gonna go back in a month and do it again.
yeah, so yeah, she's supposed to have her other knee replaced as well. And if she gets both knees replaced, then from then on she'll be a lot better off. But can she withstand that pain, withstand that suffering again just 60 days later? So, but luckily they are starting to do non-essential procedures again, because what's one of the weirdest things to me in all of this situation is I saw the other day that the third highest number of unemployment claims coming last week was healthcare.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Healthcare is an essential industry. How come they're the third highest unemployment seekers? And then I kind of started thinking, oh, yeah, that's right, because the government has shut down everything but a hospital. So all these private practices, all these normal doctors aren't able to, have their normal practice, even though they probably could be helping out significantly. They're not allowed to. They're not considered essential because they're not the government mandated hospitals that, have all the regulations and blase, blase, blase. So all these nurses,
What, de Blasio?
all these, no, let's say blase, 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 not de Blasio. All these nurses, all these med techs, all these insurance takers, all the people that work in the doctor's offices are being laid off because the doctors just can't afford to keep them on staff.
Yeah.
So third highest unemployment rates right now.
Anybody who's not involved in the immediate care of COVID-19 patients is basically sitting on their butt. So we see all these nurses on TikTok or wherever else posting these videos because they're bored. They got nothing else to do. And it feels, you feel bad, okay. Realize that the nurses that are on TikTok are not the nurses that are online saying, on going, it's so bad. And most nurses are not experiencing that. Most nurses don't work in emergency rooms, right?
Yeah.
Or in respiratory care.
The thing that drives me a little crazy is that you see all these people going, we got to stay home to help keep the curve flat. And I'm like, we flatten the curve really well. The hospitals never even only in New York, and even then not very very long, but only in New York did the hospitals ever really get a surge of people to the point that they couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
Most hospitals outside of New York City never really saw the influx of patients where we needed to flatten the curve. So we did a good job. We did what was asked of us to flatten the curve. But now the hospitals have this ramped up capacity and not nobody, but very few people to take care of because there's just not that many people are getting it overall. So now that we've flattened the curve, we should start going back to real life because now the hospitals have the room to handle all these people again. Now, if we get a sudden surge and a sudden spike in cases, then we need to draw back a little bit. But we haven't seen that. We haven't seen anything close to that. We need to go back. We need to start doing real life again.
Yeah. Well,
and eventually we will, but who knows how long? These governments are being a little bit tyrannical.
There's a lot of people who are still holding on to the old adage that we had a shortage of ventilators in New York, that there was a dearth of ventilators, that we had people who just could not get a ventilator. No. There was never, and we've said this before, but there was never an actual shortage of ventilators, okay? There was a projected shortage of ventilators where the projection showed we would need X amount of hospital beds, and based on that, we would need X amount of ventilators. That never happened. We never reached those numbers. And what President Trump was saying the whole time is, okay, this is what the state of New York is projecting. This is not what the federal government is projecting. The federal government is projecting that they will not need that many ventilators. So we're going to give them the amount of ventilators that we're projecting they're going to need. Any ventilators over that number, they need to supply for themselves. Of course, then we use the Defense Production Act to go into forcing businesses such as Philips and everybody else to start creating these items and start building them very rapidly and ensure that they were made for the United States government. But this goes back to the old adage that this is a fallacy. It never happened. This never occurred. There was never a shortage on ventilators, but yet you will hear people in the media, on Twitter, wherever else, pound this narrative that there was a shortage of ventilators. It never happened. It never occurred. President Trump, and there was never a shortage of ventilators. There was never one person in New York City who needed a ventilator and could not get one. It never, ever occurred. And this narrative that President Trump was only giving supplies to the states where the governors kissed his ass. Okay, let's very quickly look through that timeline, because the United States Navy has 2 hospital ships. They only have 2. There's a lot of red states, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Any of those ships could have gotten to, right? Or any of them up to Louisiana. Those ships could have gone up. Maybe, I don't know if they can travel the Mississippi River. That might be pushing it. But either which way, there's a lot of red states he could have sent those ships to. He didn't but where did he send them? He sent them to New York and California, 2 states that are not going to vote for him in this next election at all. There's not a chance that California and New York goes to Trump in the next election. So when they're saying, oh, well, he's only doing things for the red states, where the fuck are the ships? If they're there, why are they not in Texas? Houston was having a bad. Louisiana was one of the worst states there for a while. Why was the ship not in Louisiana, a state that voted overwhelmingly for Trump? If he only wanted to support the people who kiss his ass, I'm pretty sure when he went to an LSU game, they showed him some love.
Yeah, they definitely did.
I'm pretty sure if he goes to a Rutgers game or a USC game, it's not going to be as favorable.
Well, there's probably not that many people there either. I mean, let's face facts.
Well,
Rutgers. Nobody cares.
The ships went where they were most needed, not where was most politically advantageous, right?
Yes.
Did Trump say that he wanted to be respected when people called him? Yes. Is that a reasonable thing for the president to ask? Yes. If you're calling me asking me, if you're the governor of Michigan and you failed for 3 weeks to file an emergency declaration that was required to get FEMA aid because you didn't want to, you didn't know how, you forgot, you didn't care.
Thought it was just automatic.
Whatever the excuse was that you didn't file that, when you come out 3 weeks later and you start blaming FEMA because you didn't do what you were supposed to do, it's not really FEMA's fault that you forgot or didn't do or neglected to do or didn't know how to do what you were supposed to do. FEMA had told her the aid's approved. We're just waiting for you to ask for it. We got it ready. We just need you to formally apply for it and ask us for it so that we can send it to you. It's just the way the rules are written here. We can't just
guarantee you. Had she been a Gulf Coast state, she'd have known how to do that backwards, forward, and twice on Sunday. Because we know how to do that shit. Because we get hit by hurricanes.
Hit by tornadoes.
And if she was in California, she'd probably know how to do it too. Because they get hit by earthquakes.
That's exactly mudslides, earthquakes, forest fires.
What the hell happens in Michigan 99% of the time? Snowstorms? I mean, other than that, I really can't think of a natural disaster that hits in Michigan.
Not that often, right?
Blizzards.
Yeah, blizzards. Race riots. I'm sure those happen every now and then. But
yeah.
Listen, I'm very happy that we're going to get baseball back. And I do want to reiterate that because baseball is for me and you, our grandfather played baseball and it was a, childhood thing to go watch him play baseball and
T-ball, Little League, high school.
And I'm looking forward, not this
Rec
year.
leagues.
Little League has been suspended this year. It's not going to happen. The Little League World Series was canceled, which is heartbreaking to an entire year worth of kids who, had looked forward to that and now won't get that opportunity to go play.
It's a one-and-done chance, too. It's not like you get that multiple times.
Well, you get,
2 years.
2 years, yeah. And but at the same time, if this was the year that your team was going to be good enough and next year the kid who was your stud pitcher is off to high school, well, now, you don't get to go. And we understand that because our little sister played in a Little League World Series on a softball side. So Tacoma, Washington, she went up there. They took second in the world. A little team from Giddings, Texas, Lee County of girls who, and they had one team at the time in Lee County. They didn't have enough girls to field more than one team. They had to play teams from other cities and other counties in order to even play a regular season games. But the thing is these girls had played together for so many years. They had two really good pitchers who, could play. They had a fairly decent leadoff hitter that year. Little ragamuffin girl, could bunt all right, could slap bunt pretty decent. But she was fast. She did have that going for her. She did something her older brothers never did, and that was that she could run fast. You ran fast for a couple years.
I did.
Yeah, there was.
Then I gained some weight, and I just never really. I mean, I was good at long distance, but short distance burst, I'm good. Lateral quickness, I'm good.
Believe it or not,
like 100-meter, 40-meter dash, not so much.
Believe it or not, listeners, there was a point in time in my life that I got loaded in a damn car at like 4 a.m. to go watch Kyle do a triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was not. I was not extremely excited to be awake so early in the morning to watch him run.
Bike and swim. I think it was actually swim, bike, run.
I'm not sure the order. I don't really care.
I'm pretty sure it was swim. I mean, I know swim was first, then it was bike, then it was run. And all these other kids had these high speed, really cool bikes. I had this old 10-speed that just chugged along. I still did okay.
Yeah. So contrary to a lie my brother-in-law once told his mother about me introducing him to some crazy woman, I'm not a big track meet person. I've never been a track meet person. I've never gone to track meets. Unless Kyle was running, which was a very limited time in our lives that Kyle did track. But there was a window where Kyle did track. Because believe it or not, our dad could run. Our dad could run for days.
He was a collegiate cross country runner.
I mean, he could run and run and run and run and run, and we can run our mouths. And that's about the only similarity there.
I've run numerous 5Ks, 10Ks, 2 half marathons, and a full marathon, but just not as much as I used to. I mean, we were doing a 5K a month at the beginning of the year, and we did January and February no problem. And then COVID hit, and oops. And we found out Maggie was pregnant, so that kind of put a little damper on that too.
Yeah,
but
not a lot of running went there.
We're still walking 2 to 3 miles, pretty regularly. So that helped.
And I picked back my running, but my running was, hey, private, let's go run. So that was
mine was, hey, private, you can go run 1 mile with the normal formation, or 2 miles with the normal formation, or you can go run as a small group for 5 miles. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'd rather run as a small group for 5 miles than a big group for 2 miles, because that's a lot of that slinky bullshit.
Yeah. If you've ever been part of by the time you cycle back to get the guys that fall out, you're gonna run 17 miles by the time you're just making circles.
That and like, you'll get really fast and then you'll slow down, and you'll get really fast and you'll slow down, and you get really fast and then you slow down. And often points you're practically walking because you're just jogging in place so damn slow. You might as well be walking.
Yeah.
It's part of military formations, especially with a lot of younger, not in shape people that don't know how to keep that, formation, that don't know how to keep that
pace
and rhythm.
Yeah.
Like, keep that left, right going. They're just used to running on their own. They're not used to running in a group. So yeah. And then you got people that'll start slowing down because they're getting tired, and it's like, how are you tired? We've only been running for a minute. It's just like, come on, man. But yeah, no, I got to ask, hey, you can be part of this small group that goes and does long distance running, or you can be part of this big group. And I was like, sign me up for the long distance. I don't care.
So
I'd much rather run 10 miles than 2.
Well, I knew that running was going to be my bugaboo when I got to basic training, because I've never been a runner. I'm not particularly built for running. I can roll downhill fairly well. I can do that at a fairly phenomenal pace. But that reminds me of an old story. But running was
San
never
Antonio with the wagon.
Well, that's Charles. So I had to give this big presentation for my promotion, and it was right after lunch, so I'm up at the beginning. I'm up at the front of the room. We're waiting for people to come in. People are straggling in from lunch. They're finishing up their phone calls, finishing up their cigarettes, whatever. And so it's kind of okay. It's like 5 minutes past when I was supposed to start, and one of the guys was sitting there in the front row, and he was like, "Hey man, tell us a joke." And I said, "Well, if I laid down on a hill, I'd roll." And the room laughed. And then when I got my notes back from my presentation, it said, "That was very unprofessional." And it was like, but I made fun of myself. Like, I was being self-depreciating. How is that unprofessional? Like, I didn't make fun of anybody else. I didn't call out anybody else. I was...
Wasn't it your mama joke?
No, it was...
anything of that nature.
It's like, if I lay down on a hill, I'll roll. Like, that's 100% pointed towards myself. Am I not allowed to make fun of myself? Am I not allowed to make jokes at my own expense here? But it was fine. I still did very, very well in my presentation. So, but the point is that I ended up joining the alpha squad for running, because I said, look, I'd rather suck for a month and be able to get my run to a reasonable point by running with the really fast guys than go with the run with the really slow guys and then be struggling at the very end trying to make it and hoping I was going to make it. And it worked out. Yeah, that first month was horrible. I hated life. And there were so many times I was like, I'm just going to go back to C Squad. I'm just going to be done with this because it's so hard. And then eventually you get your legs underneath you. You figure out how to breathe correctly. That was a big thing for me, was figuring out how to breathe while running, how to adequately keep my breath and keep my pace and things of that nature. And once I figured those things out, no. Was I running 12-minute 2 miles? No. But I was able to run and run decently. So, all right. So you watched the video we did, we did with Russ last week over Flynn, Russia collusion, Ukrainian collusion, all of this stuff. And there was a lot of data there. But, I mean, there's been even more start to trickle out because we've had the transcripts now for a few days. And the biggest part of having these transcripts and looking at these transcripts that we've been able to see is that not one person interviewed ever gave any evidence at all that they knew that the Trump campaign was in collusion with the Russian government or any Russian entities. So for years, we've heard from Adam Schiff that he had the proof, that he knew it conclusively and without circumstantial evidence, that he had the proof. And now from the transcripts, Brennan, Donald Trump Jr., Clapper, McCabe, all the different people, Clapper, I get it. All the different people who were interviewed, who have said in various different formats that they had evidence that Trump colluded, said under oath that they did not have that evidence. So what's your takeaway there? Because that seems relevant.
It's very interesting, to say the least. I'm going to say, it definitely vindicates the Trump movement. It definitely will make some of the never Trumpers rethink some things if this actually gets enough airtime, because CNN is not going to be airing any of that if they don't have to. They're only going to be doing so if forced to. But Fox will probably carry it a little bit. OAN will probably carry it a little bit.
Twitter will carry it.
Yeah, Twitter. Well, I don't know. Twitter's been definitely putting the kibosh on some conservative people lately, so maybe not. They might try to shadow ban that shit. Mm-hmm. But eventually enough people will... It's
currently the number one tweeting hashtag on Twitter.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so Twitter doesn't have choice. Enough people are talking about it that it's getting airtime. So yeah, it's one of those things that...
So funnily enough, it is... I just have to say this. It's spelled wrong. So it's, instead of hashtag Obamagate, it's hashtag Obamgate.
Okay, cool. I always loved the when we were, when we made the college postseason for baseball, we'd put beat the hell out of Omaha, and people would always get mad, like, they're saying to beat the hell out of Obama. We're like, hey, Omaha and Obama are not the same thing. And two, Do you know what time of the year it is?
Yeah.
It's college baseball season.
Yeah.
So
And
that
the
was
answer,
always
the answer there is no. They don't know that because almost nobody knows about college baseball season. Because college baseball season is very weird scheduled.
Like it starts
very early.
Almost every year starts just on or near Valentine's Day, which for me and my wife works great because I got an easy Valentine's Day gift. Take her to Aggie baseball game.
There you go.
Buy her nachos that she loves. Maggie, since I know you're probably listening, don't worry, you'll still get your nachos next year, providing A&M baseball's back.
I mean, you can buy the cheese at HEB. Just make nachos.
They do more than just that. It's
okay, jalapenos,
shredded pork, and a little bit of extra stuff. They're good, expensive, but they're good.
I mean, I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just saying nachos are not. A&M did not invent the nacho.
I mean, but they put their own little spin on it. Pulled pork, barbecue sauce.
Nobody's ever made nachos with pulled pork on it.
Cool. So whatever. But it always amazed me how people got so offended over that, and I'm like, dude, just read what it says. It does not say Obama. It says Omaha. I know you're in this world of constant victimhood, but just read. It is not that hard.
So, which is kind of funny. So if you look at Twitter right now, Obamagate, not Obamagate, has 19.8 thousand tweets. Myles Garrett's number 2 with 4,551 tweets. Then Chuck Grassley is number 3 at 9,000 tweets. So he has more tweets than Myles Garrett, but yet he's only number 3.
See, mine says Ask China with 82.4K tweets.
Yeah, and that's. But then if you look down, Obamagate, the full word, has 3.77 million tweets. But it's not number 1.
I don't understand how they do the trending. I think it's like within the last hour. It's not necessarily the overall or the last 30 minutes or whatever it may be. It's trending. There may be a ton of people tweeting about it over time, but only in this last, hour are these people, tweeting about it. Yeah, but I don't even see Obamagate. I just see Obamagate.
Yeah. So if you click on Show More, now it's at top for me, but I'm sure it's different for everybody. Okay, so the point is that we're now at the point where
Shady Grove, Texas is trending. I don't know why.
Yeah, I saw that too. I don't know. Maybe I hope nothing bad happened. Let's say that. I'm hoping it's not bad. If it's bad, don't tell me. We're at the point now where if you still believe that the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians.
Oh, it's a restaurant in Austin, or it's like a hangout in Austin. I read about this earlier. Actually, it's they're closing their doors forever because of Corona, and it's been a like staple for 30 plus years. It's at Barton Springs, so
okay.
It closing is pretty
a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but back to what I was saying is that we're at the point now with the Russia collusion investigation where President Trump allowed them to investigate him to no end. He's allowed any and every investigation you could want, right? There's no further reason to investigate this issue. We've had Senate investigations. We've had House investigations. We've had the Mueller investigation. We've had the FBI investigate. We've had all these different investigations into the Spygate, Obamagate, whatever you want to call it. But at this point, it's okay. We know that there was never a reasonable suspicion to actually go after the Trump campaign other than politics. It looks like this was a purely political move, that there was only a political motive behind it. And if that is the case, then you have to ask why, the whole Ukrainian scandal was over that Trump was using his position to go after a political opponent. That was the logic behind the impeachment scandal, everything there. So if that's the logic there, why is it not the same logic that the FBI, parts of the CIA, parts of the DOJ, parts of other various government entities were used by the Obama administration, by Joe Biden, by Barack Obama, by Hillary Clinton, by whoever else, to conjure up bad news stories about the Trump campaign. And in an attempt to derail the start of the Trump campaign or the start of the Trump administration, the end of the Trump campaign. These things were already being talked about before the election in a hope that it would sour Trump supporters and help Hillary Clinton's election chances. We couldn't, she could have gone to Wisconsin probably one time. That might have helped. She also could, have been a half-decent human being at any point in time of her life. That might have helped. But she didn't. She chose to do neither of those things at any point in time. So what we got was a Trump presidency. And there's a lot of people, and it'll be, whether it's a majority of people, will be seen in November, that really do not want a Trump presidency anymore. There's a swath of people who are indifferent one way or the other. It's pretty narrow nowadays, I feel, that there's the group of people who are indifferent to a Trump presidency. And then there's a good swath of people, of course, who are very supportive of another Trump term. So we have to understand, though, how far up the tree does this ladder climb? Because if Obama knew that there was no justification for this investigation and he allowed it to occur regardless, then there's some bad stuff there. Now, I don't personally feel President Trump should go, or President Obama should go to jail. Do I think he should get a slap on the wrist and maybe lose his pension? Something like that, fine. I don't personally want to see him dragged to jail. I don't think that serves us as a country because it's just going to further divide Republican Democrats, right? Do I feel like there's an underlying crime there that's worthy of it? That's a question, but it's never going to be definitively proven. And so I think, okay, you look at something else. Can we strip him of some of his pension? Can we take away some of his benefit perks of being, a former president? There's options there, I feel, we could go after if we can. And I know this is going to suck for a lot of people because I know we want essentially revenge at this point because we've had the first 3 years of the Trump administration kind of taken from us by this, where a lot of the agenda of the country has been these investigations and worrying about this, whether the Mueller investigation, whether it was the impeachment, all of these different things that we've taken all this time and money and effort to that hasn't gone into doing anything productive for the country. Like infrastructure bill. Nancy Pelosi was, oh yes, you know what? Okay, that's the one thing me and the president agree on is we need an infrastructure bill. But it's the one damn thing we haven't even gotten close to getting, right? We've gotten every investigation under the sun. We've gotten every select subcommittee in the House that you could ever want, and we're going to talk to Chip Roy about that a little bit. But isn't it time that we actually have our Congress start doing some of the job of moving this country forward instead of just stalling us? And I've made this argument before, right? And the sports analogy remains true that the Democrats are winning the game currently. It's the fourth quarter. We don't have very many timeouts left, and they kind of just got to run the clock down on us. And they're doing a fairly decent job of that. And don't get me wrong. They're going to stall till November. There's no chance that shit gets done before November. Nancy Pelosi may not even bring the House into session before November at this point. Hell, she's put it off so many damn times. They may never come back. Who knows? We may have all new congressmen by the time the House comes back into session.
That would be very, very weird. I'm not going to lie to you. They've got to get back to work. They've got to get to doing things again. The country relies on them doing things.
They went into break April 20th, which means we're getting very close to a full month. They've not done a damn thing. Not a vote. Not a committee meeting.
Are you saying that she in California wants to celebrate 420 for a full month?
You know, she's got she has a refrigerator and freezer stocked full of munchies.
Yeah, I'm saying, man.
I mean, high-priced munchies. But we're seeing Kevin McCarthy. We're seeing, you know, all of the high-end Republicans in the House say, look, it's time to come back. You know, Washington, D.C. is getting back to work. The people are going back to work. The Senate's in session. They're somehow figuring it out. Why can we not do this? Why can we not come back? Why can we at least not have, maybe we don't have the full House in chamber, but we can at least have committee hearings. We can at least start getting legislation working through committees and start doing some other things so that we can start doing things that might actually benefit the country. And at this point, Nancy Pelosi's only tactic at this point is to stall. That's the only tool she has left in the bag is to stall.
Is there any, and now this is coming out of ignorance because I honestly don't know, is there any kind of provision that Trump or the Republicans or Senate or anybody in general could use to force Congress to come back?
The only thing
I know in Texas, you know, the governor and lieutenant governor can call a special session. So they're only supposed to meet every other year. They can call a special session because they didn't finish something.
To my knowledge, and fact check us, listeners, if you know better, because maybe I'm wrong. To my knowledge, there's no specific thing that can be done to force the Speaker of the House to bring the House back into session. I'm sure that we would have been hearing this from Republicans in the House at this point to go to that, option if it was possible. Now, they can attempt to force a vote for a new Speaker of the House, but Democrats aren't going to, the Democrats own the House. They're not going to, you would need a majority of Democrats to go against Nancy Pelosi. Chances are that's not going to happen right now.
I mean, they are losing a little bit of favor right now. People are starting to see through their lies. I mean, even this weekend, one of our very liberal cousins came to me and be like, dude, did you see all the bullshit the Democrats tried to put in the stimulus bill? And I was like, yeah, talked about it on my show.
Yeah.
He's like, $25 million to the Kennedy Center? What the hell was that? I was like, well, the fun part is that $5 million of that went right back to the DNC. He goes, what? I was like, yeah. It was a straight pay for play, baby.
Yeah,
straight pay for play.
That was legitimate taxpayer funded bribery is what that was.
Yeah.
So we see that General Flynn is now been not found exonerated. It's not found not guilty because the charges were dropped.
Yeah,
and they were dropped in such a way that they cannot bring those charges again
with prejudice.
With prejudice. So if President Trump should lose the election in November to Joe Biden, God help us all. If that should happen, President Obama or President Biden at that point would not be able to restate the charges. They would have to find new crimes to charge General Flynn with. So would they do it? Sure, because they have no problem making up charges against people. That's not outside their purview. But can they do it? It would be very dicey. So the point is that General Flynn, he thought he was talking to friends who had come out of the Obama administration with him, because he did serve under the Obama administration. So he had served in a role where he worked with Andrew McCabe, where he worked with these people. And so he thought, I'm not under investigation, I'm just talking amongst my friends. So lying to the FBI was, yes, Andrew McCabe is a member of the FBI. But he wasn't acting as a member of the FBI at that moment. He was acting as, hey, buddy, I'm your friend. You don't need a lawyer. Just, we'll just have a conversation. This is just between me and you. Turns out that wasn't true, of course. And then there was what you would call prosecutorial malfeasance, where the prosecutors in the case basically hid evidence from the defense attorneys. And they used the threat of going after General Flynn's son in order to kind of coerce him into pleading guilty. And, he pled guilty, fine, but he pled guilty under coercion, which is, not how it's supposed to be. If let's say you, the listener, had committed a crime where you think blah 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 XYZ, then you all of a sudden find out that you're being charged with XYZ crime, but now they're saying, well, if you don't plead guilty, we're going to throw your son or daughter in jail for jaywalking, whatever other crime. You would do what it takes as a father, as a mother, to protect your kids. That's just reasonable. That you would say, well, this is my child. This is a person that I care for. I don't want them to suffer when I could relieve that suffering. So instead, I will prevent them from suffering. I will take the fall for them. But then once they were able to get this evidence and they were able to put it in front of the defense attorneys and let them see that the FBI never had a justifiable reason for going after General Flynn. They never had a reasonable suspicion to go after General Flynn. And that there was a lot of other very shady aspects to this. That's when the DOJ decided to let it go. Now, of course, we've seen the news go after it to say, oh, this is just evidence that Trump rigged it for his buddy, yada, yada, yada. It doesn't seem that that's the case whatsoever. Bill Barr, the Attorney General, was not the person who decided to end this case. It was decided by the prosecutors on the case and their supervisors, and that was then presented to Bill Barr, and Bill Barr said okay and agreed to it.
Didn't one of the prosecutors resign or retire during this process because of all this going on?
The morning that that it was announced that General Flynn the charges would be dropped, he removed himself from and the important part is he didn't remove himself from just this case. He removed himself from a lot of cases. And the general notice there, Mike Cernovich put this out, is that typically this is, I'm getting fired, so I'm going to go ahead and file the applications to remove myself as a prosecutor on these cases because I'm not going to work here any longer. So I don't have definitive proof that that prosecutor was fired or no longer works at the DOJ, Department of Justice, but it at least is indicative of that possibly happening, of the potential of that happening. And so we will have to see what goes on, like with Roger Stone. But I said this the other week that I believe, and I've criticized President Trump in the past for being a little hasty in his actions or not taking the time to let all the data really flow into him, and being, sometimes he's a little hot-headed, which, okay, that's fine. We know it about him. But in this case, I think he played this about as good as you could have. Now, are there conservatives who were upset that President Trump didn't do more earlier? Yes, but I think they're mostly right now okay with it because they see what the end result was and they like the end result. Had Flynn gone to jail, Trump probably would have been in trouble with some of the conservative base.
Yeah, so he gets accused of being too hasty quite a bit, but this is not one of the few times, but this is one of the many times that he's played the long game and let it roll out and let it develop and let it see what happens by just allowing things to play out as they may be. And speaking of long games, a recruit finally committed to a school. TCU of all places. For people who aren't aware, people that I'm not aware of what I'm talking about, Zach Evans has been one of the weirdest, wildest, weaved tales we've ever told when it comes to college football recruiting. Mm-hmm. Highly decorated, super phenomenal. Probably going to be, if stays healthy, probably going to be a first-round draft pick. And they don't do that often when it comes to running backs. But he has the potential. He's that good. Yeah. Committed to Georgia secretly, and had signed with them in the early signing period, and then something happened and he didn't want to be there anymore. So they released him from his LOI, and he went on a few more visits, and then COVID happened, and now come May 11th, he has committed and enrolled and started taking classes, which is the important thing, at TCU of all schools.
Yeah, because he had committed several times.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's actually taking classes indicates that maybe
now
he's going to stay
there.
there.
Officially a Horned Frog. Now that doesn't mean he won't enter the transfer portal, but for now, he's at TCU. So for A&M's perspective, it's like the best possible way it could have rolled out, because he's not in Austin, he's not in the SEC West, he's not in the SEC East.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
He's going to be giving the folks in Austin a hard time. He's going to be giving the folks in Stillwater and Norman. I'm saying Oklahoma City, but they're like neighbors. He's going to be giving those people a hard time because the kid's phenomenally talented. But what was hilarious was his half brother, step brother. I don't know what the situation is. They don't have the same last name. Went on Twitter, goes, "Oh, I don't know about that." And he's like, "I'm a Horned Frog. Hi, bye. I'm getting the fuck away from you." Because the stepbrother, or the half brother, whatever he is, he's created a lot of drama around his recruitment. And for this kid to get out of Houston and away from that environment and into Gary Patterson's not the best coach in the world, but he's a very good coach.
Well,
and he knows how to utilize running backs.
TCU is a good school.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as educationally, he didn't do bad, right? Yeah. TCU he's going to get a good education there. Now the question is, the kid's been accused of being a nutball, right? For better or for worse, the kid has had allegations that he's not all there. He can run the football, but he's not all there. One second. Sorry about that.
I don't know if those allegations are true, false, just people being upset that they didn't get him.
Yeah.
You see, there's a lot of that. Let's not downplay that right there, that factor of the Twitterverse. These different schools, if their feelings get hurt because a kid didn't commit to their school, they'll go out there and run his name through the mud because of, they'll make up stuff. They'll go find things from 30 years ago that his daddy did. They'll find some reason to justify him not being their kid. He's not a Georgia Bulldog, or he's not an LSU Tiger. Oh, I got to go drag his name through the mud. And there's a school about 90 miles to 100 miles west of here that's really good about that. Their Twitter population is very nasty when something doesn't go their way. So I'm sure if you go look for his name and Longhorn stuff coming up, there's some nasty jabs in there. So I'm not sure. I mean, from all accounts, the kid's a good kid. From everybody I've talked to that knows him, that's met him, that's been around him, he's a good kid. He's dedicated to his craft. He just wants to be able to play. But he's had people in his inner circle that were looking out for themselves and not looking out for him. And now he's escaping them and going to go create his own legacy. And I wish him luck. I wish him luck. I hope he beats the Longhorns 4 out of 4 years, or 3 out of 3 years if he only plays for 3 years.
Yeah, well, and we both do, because, it's fun to watch the Longhorns lose. They cry a lot when they lose.
Oh, and it's been delicious these last few years.
Especially to the lower second-tier teams in the Big 12 when Kansas. They lose. It's one thing when they lose to Oklahoma, right? Because it's another thing when they lose to Kansas, to TCU, to Texas Tech,
Iowa State,
Baylor.
Well, Baylor actually got good there for a little bit.
Baylor's been better, right? But they're still not. They don't recruit at the level UT recruits, right? They shouldn't have the talent to even stay on the field with UT.
Oh, there's some discussion to be had there if Longhorns actually recruit as well as they say they do, or if the commits get bumped up significantly by just committing to Texas. Example, Tyler Owens, the safety they got that was a 3-star or 2-star and then committed to Texas and magically became a 5-star overnight. shit like that.
Well, and there's also some to that happens with Alabama too. That happens with Florida State every now and then in the big schools like that. That maybe the guys who are ranking you didn't think much of you, but then they notice that a big school's looking at you, and it's like, well, what did I miss? That this big school's looking at them. And there are recruits who go under the radar. There are recruits who get drafted who are 1-2 star recruits out of high school or went to a school that no scouts ever went to and never saw, but
Had to go JUCO because couldn't qualify, and or no one really recruited him out of high school.
Yeah,
and then went to JUCO, blew up, either got really fast, really big, really strong, something developmentally happened for him. Because, not every kid develops at the same stages as everyone else. Like, I was 5 foot flat going into high school, and there was kids that were already 6 foot tall. And they just kept getting taller, and I got up to 5'9", 5'10", whatever the hell I am today, by the time I got to senior year. But, there were kids coming into freshman year that were already 6 foot tall. I'm sure that happened in Giddings with you too. There's kids at your age that are already significantly taller than you. But some kids just develop later. They don't peak out until they're 20, 21. David Robinson's the perfect example of that. I mean, he went to the Navy Academy, which is why he's called the Admiral, and he was 6 foot or so, and then in the process of being at the Navy Academy, grew up to be 6'10", 6'11"?
Yeah, he's a tall dude. I've met him in real life. That's a massive human being. That dude is.
And that was actually a knock on his son when he was being recruited for because he was a college football. He's pretty good. I mean, he was mid upper 3-star, low 4-star on some recruiting pages, but a lot of colleges were kind of afraid of him because, yo, daddy did this. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So he didn't get recruited as hard as he probably could have been because of that fact. There was a lot of schools that were afraid he was going to outgrow whatever position he went to and go to basketball because that's what dad did.
Mm-hmm. So, Kyle, I'm going to share my screen. I got to show you something that just popped up on Twitter, and it's being
it's me.
It's widely debunked at the moment. So here. At the same time, the point is that, and I'm gonna out myself here. I just realized I didn't have our audio connected to that scene, so the YouTube listeners didn't hear any of that conversation.
Oh well.
So I apologize.
Shoe Rose unmuted.
Yeah.
Shoe Rose unmuted.
So I apologize to all the listeners. I was switching between browsers. I didn't realize that I had built this scene and did not build it with our audio included into it. So yeah, if we're not in the scene, our audio is probably not in it either. So Ross should probably have checked that before he did that. But it happens from time to time. Yeah. So listen, there's a lot. There's a lot going on right now, and fortunately, it seems like some bit of life is going to get back to normal. In Midland, at least, we're starting to open back up. Now, opening back up in an oil town in the middle of an oil recession, is still kind of slow. So, there's a lot of stuff that's still just kind of not occurring at the moment. That's taking its dear sweet time. And hopefully here in the next month or two, we're going to start seeing some things come back around. So we saw 2 pretty good indicators in the last week of oil prices making a faster than expected rebound. Number one, we got the reserve reports, and we're not at full capacity. So we don't have a lot of capacity, but we're not full, which means the refineries are using more than we thought they were. Okay? It means demand did not drop as much as we anticipated. It still dropped a lot, but it didn't drop as much as we anticipated. People are still using fuel quite a bit. Now, as states start to reopen, as people start to travel again, as the summer months come along, especially as more people are taking summer vacations, as more people are running their air conditionings, as more people are doing XYZ activities, we'll see oil and gas usage peak back up, right? The demand will come back up. And we saw another good indicator in that Saudi Arabia, for the first time since the price war started, has increased their price of oil. So
I was going to say salons and barbershops open back up, but no, that's only in Texas and doesn't really affect oil that much. But, you know, it's a good sign.
Anybody using electricity helps oil because, as we've said before, oil and gas accounts for 60% of the energy production in this country. So for anybody who says, well, I drive an electric car, it's great for the environment, 60% of whatever the hell you're using in that came from oil and gas. So probably not. And it's not a very efficient engine because the batteries lose a lot of electricity and entropy and heat and all these other damn things. Yeah.
But hey, Tesla, if you're listening,
we still want you to come to Texas.
Elon,
bring it.
Come on over to Brazos County. We'll love to have you. Find some room in the bottom for you. It's on the river. Be able to barge stuff in and out, and got the little bitty regional airport. But I'm sure with your money, can get that thing flying high, no problem.
It's fine.
Although I saw
Elon Midland has a spaceport already. Okay,
I saw Hidalgo County put an official, very pretty letter out to him. They're trying hard for him down there. We're like, oh, we're already here. We already got all this stuff.
Yeah,
we already got all this infrastructure for you. We got you. And I'm just like, Brazos County, come on, let's do it. I need it here too because I want a Tesla. Because just for the shit I say, I got a Tesla.
So, Elon, right? You're a solar company, right? You
Yeah.
want to go to one of the places that has the highest sun index in Texas, and I can tell you that when you're closer to the Gulf, right, there's more cloud coverage because you have all these atmospherical and tropical conditions coming in that create clouds. You know what we have a lot of in Midland? Sun. We have a crap ton of sun. We have sun and more sun and yet some sun and then sand. That's what we have. So
and sand makes what? Silicone. What silicone make?
well,
Chips.
Well, certain types of sand. Let's not get ahead of ourselves there. But the point is, you're a solar company. Come to the place that's got
one of the things they do.
Tesla he has a lot of different companies, but Tesla makes cars and solar panels.
Have you seen the solar panels they make for roofs? It's not like a big solar panel. It's like a shingle. Yeah. It's a glass shingle. It's supposed to be almost indestructible.
Yeah.
I would love to reshingle my roof with some of those and then start making the money, or start making the energy off of that. But you got to actually make it beneficial to me first. And I don't think they're really mass producing it just yet. They're getting there, but not quite.
So I have plans to do 2 solar arrays on my roof, one on the south side and one on the west side. On the west side, because on the east side I have a big oak tree that overlooks the roof line. So most of my eastward sun, most of my morning sun is blocked by a big oak tree. So westwardly though, once you're high noon and beyond, there's nothing blocking sun for the rest of the day there. My entire western roof line is open and exposed to the sunlight. So that would be good. What I plan to do with my eastern roof line is buy 2 vertical windmills, residential windmills, and put them up there. And in that way, I kind of have a double coverage. If it's sunlight, great, I have coverage. If it's windy, great, I have coverage. If it's one of the two, I have coverage. And we have two readily available things in West Texas: sun, wind, because we don't have a lot of trees to knock them down.
Does your utility company buy back energy though?
I don't think they do. And
that was one of the things that prevented me to doing it here. BTU only buys back up to, no, they won't buy back anything. So you can only, and you can't even go 100%.
Yeah.
Like the solar companies will not do a array that will get you 100%. Because they don't want you trying to sell back energy that you can't actually use. I was like, well, put a battery system in place, and then I don't got to worry about it. I store it for the next day. No, we can't do that. I'm like, yeah, you can, but they wouldn't do it. But the other thing was is that they gave me a quote.
It's my business. It's my house. I'll do what I want with it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing was is they gave me a quote, but it wasn't really a quote. It was marketing material with the number on it, and I'm like, if you want to give me a quote, I need to see what I'm buying and how much I'm paying for it. Mm-hmm. If it's labor, cool. If it's materials, cool. I just need to see it. You can't just tell me, oh, you owe me X, and it's going to take you X amount of years to pay it off, but nothing down. No, that's bait and switch bullshit. I ain't falling for your crap.
Yeah.
Show me some pricing.
And then when you have one solar panel on your roof, well, I mean, but that's what you agreed to. You should have looked. It was right there. It said you were getting one solar panel for $45,000.
Yeah, I'm not falling for that bullshit.
Yeah.
I've looked into it. I mean, I want to do it. Don't get me wrong. It's just right now I got to find someone who will actually give me a legitimate quote.
Yeah. Well, we when we first moved to Midland, Odessa, our electrical bills were super high because we went with Reliant or whoever, the one of the big companies, and it was free nights and weekends, yada blah 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 blah. But what we found out was it was 14 cents a kilowatt hour when it wasn't free, which is astronomical. So we did some shopping this time, and no, we don't have free nights or weekends, but we are only paying 8 cents a kilowatt hour. And then also we bought a house that has sunlights, and we barely ever turn on the lights in our house during the day because we have natural light coming through. We have big bay windows everywhere, so we have natural light. And then the way the house is shaped, it's not that bad on the air conditioning or the heater. So there's a lot of good things there, and there's a lot of things that are helping us as far as that, because the old apartment we used to live into, it also had just very old air conditioner and hot water heater, and boy, that just and that's the other thing. We have a propane hot water heater now, so we're not sucking electricity through our damn hot water heater, which so now, look, this has been a week of a lot of stuff happening, and we understand we're not going to get to all of it today because it's just too much for us to cover in an episode. But we do want to know what you guys want to know when we talk to Chip Roy. So we're going to talk to a sitting United States Congressman, Chip Roy. And we're going to have a conversation with him. And, there's a lot of questions here about, okay, what investigations are we going to try to get on the Republican side? Are we going to try to have anybody come in? Are we going to try to get testimony? Are we going to try to do X, Y, Z? And we want to know these things. We want to know what Congress is going to do now that it looks like the Trump administration was unrightfully investigated and perjured and all these other things. Can we go after James Comey? Can we go after Andrew McCabe? Can we go after Clapper, Brennan, Susan Rice, any of these people? But there's a way for you guys to not only send us information. So first off, you guys can see right down below us is our Twitter links. So make sure you hit us up. It's in the description as well. Just click there. It'll take you straight to our Twitter page. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. So you can send us DMs. You can just direct tweet us, whatever you want to do. Let us know what you're thinking, what you want us to ask. The second method is to go to zero-gravity-media.com. In there, you can leave us a message. and tell us, hey, this is what we want to know. These are the questions we have for Representative Chip Roy. And this is what we want to see discussed because this is what we find important. We have questions that we want to know, right? We have things that we're going to ask him. We have things that we're going to come up with. But we want this interview to be, for our listeners, something that's informative, something that they take away and say, man, I learned a lot off of that interview. I didn't just go into that interview and sit through it and listen to Ross's beautiful melodic voice. So make sure if you have a question.
Hopefully the crowd can hear me snicker and laugh at that comment.
So if you have a question.
I'm trying my best to not stab my eardrums out right now, but we're doing okay.
Yeah, sure you are, buddy. So if there's something there that you think we need to ask, that we should ask, that we haven't asked, that we ought to ask, whatever, you need to let we can ask it so that we can make sure that you guys are represented when it comes to this interview we're going to do with Chip Roy. With that being said, guys, I mean, to just recap what Kyle and I have talked about tonight, the big things coming up are we should see baseball come back. Baseball. We should see some live sports. Apparently, they're discussing how basketball is going to come back for the playoffs and whatever else.
Just cancel it.
Well, okay, Kyle says cancel it, but for a lot of people,
the Spurs weren't going to make the postseason anyway. Just cancel it. Start over next year.
Okay. Well,
I think Trey Felder will agree with me.
He very well may. But the point is that, we have a lot of things that are going to go on here very, very soon. And hopefully the world is going to start getting back to a semblance of being normal. And hopefully for all of you guys, that means that you're going to get to start doing some of the things you enjoy doing and that you want to do. And hopefully it means that you're not going to be, sitting in your house and twiddling your thumbs anymore. And so, let's all hope that things start getting better and better and better.
It can't get worse. So let's hope for the best, pray for the best, and go from there. And remember, if you don't feel safe and you don't feel comfortable going out and doing things, or you're immune compromised, and that leads to those fears, no one is telling you have to go out. No one is telling you have to interact with people. No one is telling you that you have to do anything of any nature whatsoever. You can stay in your house and you can stay under quarantine. And no one's going to judge you about that because we will understand. Those are, rightly founded fears, especially with an immune compromised system. But in the same vein, don't criticize me and mine when we don't have that same fear. When we are afraid that we're going to lose our jobs if we don't start making money. And or we're going to lose our jobs, we're going to lose our money, we're going to lose our ability to pay our mortgage, we're going to lose the ability to pay for our food, stuff of that nature. Let us, those of us who are brave enough to face the ramifications, go out and enjoy life again and start making money to be able to put food on our tables. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters, if I've eaten today or not. If I have, great. If I haven't, something went wrong.
I mean, and that's it, right? I mean, we all have to have again, I talked about this with Russ last week, and this is an important part of this conversation, is that freedom is not about doing what is expedient or correct or within popular opinion. Freedom is about being able to do what you feel is correct or best for you. And sometimes other people are going to think that that decision is really stupid. And that is perfectly fine. That other people are going to think you are being a moron. Okay? Kyle and I think the other one of us is being a moron 3 times a day at least. At minimum, I think Kyle's a moron about 3 times a day. And Kyle thinks it's about me probably more often than that. But that's not the point. The point is that we are able to have that freedom to, regardless of whether or not I feel Kyle's being stupid or Kyle feels I'm being stupid, is irrelevant to the situation. What matters is that I want to do this. What matters is that Kyle wants to do that. And if Kyle feels that it's within his purview to do so, then that's what he gets to do. And trust me, he's gotten phone calls from me like, "What the did you just do?" And he'll get more of them because I'm sure that this is not the last stupid decision he'll ever make. He makes stupid decisions quite often.
I mean, Winston Churchill is famously quoted for saying, "You've got enemies? Good. That means you stood up for something."
Yeah. Yeah, there's an old song saying, you got to stand up for something or you'll fall for anything. Aaron Tippin.
Who is now on TikTok? Well, his son is on TikTok.
Okay, well, fantastic.
And he's playing the guitar, singing in the background a majority of his son's TikToks.
Okay. So, the important part here is that you should have the freedom to do what you feel is correct for you.
Now kiss this.
Regardless of whether I feel it's correct or not. And I'm going to bring up one last topic that you and I haven't discussed, which is what happened.
3 minutes.
Which is what's happened in Georgia.
The Ahmaud
Arbery.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So I talked about this with
Russ.
And I'll say it still. I reserve the right to change my mind at any point in time if conflicting evidence occurs and appears. But at this very moment, that doesn't seem to be happening. The evidence that we got yesterday, which showed him going into an old house or to a under construction house and looking around and not taking anything, not stealing anything, just looking around.
Say the houses here in my neighborhood are like we're in a new development area, and the houses that have a available, even the ones that say take in, as long as the door's not locked, the home builder actually encourages you to go into them and look at them so you can get a feel for what the layout is and get a feel for what you like of their housing models, and so that you don't have to bother with a salesperson.
So if
kind of like going to a car dealership and looking at all the cars on a Sunday because you don't have to worry about the salespeople bothering you.
Exactly. So here's another facet of this, and this is an important facet of it. If he was in the house, let's say scoping it out in broad daylight, which is stupid. The reporting has been is that all of a sudden there's been this spurt of crimes in this area. But only one burglary had been reported in that area that year. There hadn't been 30, 40, 50 burglaries or even 5 or 10.
And of that burglary, the one that was reported was the guys who committed the crimes, gun being stolen out of their vehicle.
So maybe these guys have a vendetta. But I've seen a lot of bad takes on this, which Candace Owens, I'm looking at you right now, that I'd love to have you on to discuss why you said what you said. I don't particularly find it helpful. I don't think maybe you misspoke. Maybe you were being hasty. I don't know what you were doing, but it didn't seem that hit the mark you were trying to push. I've liked Matt Walsh's take on it. I've liked Jeremy Bering's take on it. I've liked, Cernovich's take on it. Is that if I commit a crime, let's say I commit a crime, but it was a non-violent crime, you don't have the right to chase me down with a gun because of it, right? I'm not on your property. I'm not endangering your life or any other such fashion. Even if you think I may have stolen something from you in the past, okay, fine. There's nowhere in the citizens arrest laws that allows you to chase somebody down with a gun. you're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to stand your ground. You're allowed to, look out for yourself. But you are not allowed to get out of your truck and point a gun into somebody's face and tell them to stop. So if somebody points a gun at me, I am now defending myself. I am now in the position of defending myself because you are the aggressor. I'm not pointing a gun at you. You're pointing a gun at me, right? Me then running after you is not self-defense. In my view, Ahmaud Arbery was defending himself, in my view. Now, for everybody who says, well, why would he run at a person if he was just defending himself? No, listen.
Because the ability to close the distance on a gun gives them a lot narrower field of view to aim. Yeah. If you're a distance away, you can aim, take your time, make adjustments, and then shoot. But if you're up close and personal, you got a very limited amount of time, a very limited field to be able to make adjustments. So, especially with a shotgun or a long rifle, if I can get close enough, I can push the barrel away, and now you can't shoot me. You might ring the shit out of my ears, but you can't shoot me.
Here's the other point of this. Have you ever, Kyle, I actually know the answer to this question. So not really, the question's not for you, but it's just for the general audience. If you've never had a gun pointed in your face that was legitimately somebody trying to kill you, you have no effing clue how you'll react to it, right?
Yeah, scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. So until that's happened to you, you have no right to justify or question what this person was thinking or what he did. Would I have acted that way? I don't know. I'd like to say, well, maybe this, but that's all in hindsight. None of us were there. None of us were in the moment. All of this was happening. This is all happening within the matter of like 15 seconds. And everybody wants to dissect it and go over to decisions and say, well, he was wrong for this. There was a series of stupid decisions that led to a very bad outcome, right? I don't know what the kid was doing in the neighborhood, whether he was just jogging, whether he was casing joints, whatever. But in my view at this very moment, again, I reserve the right to backtrack on this if some new evidence comes out. But at what we see right now, it looks like two dumbasses and a third dumbass filming it took off after a kid because they suspected him of committing a crime with probably jack shit evidence that he had actually committed a crime. Listening to the 911 call does not help their case because when they call, they just say, oh, basically there's a black man in our neighborhood. We know he's committing crimes. When the person on the other end, the 911 operator, asks, what crime has he committed? We don't know. We just have him on tape. Well, do you have him on tape? Do you have another black person on tape? Because unless you can definitively prove that it was him, it still doesn't justify your actions. Your actions are still wrong. You don't have the right, and I got in this fight, and I actually got a guy to agree with me on Twitter because he posted the citizens arrest law from Georgia. And I read it, and I said, okay, now show me in that law where it says that you get to take your guns and point them in people's faces and tell them to do what you tell them to do. Because it's not in there. It doesn't exist. There's no portion of this law that says you get to shoot somebody if they don't listen to you.
Yeah, it's 100% correct, man. It's a very weird situation. And I'm glad that they finally, arrested these gentlemen as committing murder. And a lot of people are wanting to say, oh, it took too long. But you've got to realize a lot of things were going on in the world when all this happened. You had COVID. That took a lot of people out of commission. You had the older gentleman having been a retired cop and the younger gentleman having been a former cop. So professional relationships abound. So a lot of people had to recuse themselves. They can't just say, oh, I'm going to go about it, because then, the perception is that they were getting a light sentence or anything of that nature. And you don't want that perception being out there. You want it to be the perception being that they were either found guilty and given a just punishment, or they were found not guilty because they weren't guilty. In this situation, it definitely looks like they were guilty. like what you said, reserve the right to change my mind if new evidence comes to light. But as of right now, damning evidence says you're guilty, boy. Yeah. And yeah, I'm gonna reverse that. And I'm gonna call you the boy because you were the dumbass. I know you probably called him a boy because you're a racist and you just thought you could.
Yeah.
But again, the kid, what it looks like on face value is the kid went inside of or a young man went inside of a building, looked around, came out, and kept on jogging. And like I said, in my neighborhood, it's we're under new construction. The back part of my neighborhood is all new houses still. The home builder does actually tell you, go ahead, go look and see what you like, and then come to us and tell us what you did and didn't like, and we can help custom fit you to a house that you really want. And if it's not this neighborhood, we got a couple others that we're building too. So if you don't like it here, we can give you there. So
model homes, model homes,
exactly. And they're not necessarily model homes, but they're under development homes, and they recommend, like, they actually say, yeah, please go ahead. You don't need a salesperson. Just go in and look, have at it. Tell us what you like, and then that way you don't have to waste the salesperson time if you don't really like it. And you can also find what you like and then tell the salesperson what you do like to help them, refine your choices. Saves everybody a little bit of time.
So in my view right now, and again, like I said, we'll see. We'll see where this case goes, what ends up. This looks like a pure, simple case of vigilantism. Yeah. This looks like two guys who maybe their intentions to begin with were good, that they thought they were protecting their neighborhood and they were being white knights and, making sure that crime wasn't coming into their neighborhood. And maybe their initial intentions were just to go stop the guy and talk to him and see what was going on. And, okay, we can have that conversation. But when you went to your house and grabbed your guns, which in their statement and a
cameraman apparently
and a cameraman, when you've went to your house and grabbed your guns, right? This isn't Nanny Oakley, right? So when you went and did that, you escalated the situation. You escalated it from what could have been just, hey, we're gonna have a conversation, to this is a threat against somebody's life. They don't get out of the truck and walk into the middle of the street and put their hands up and say, hey, man, we'd like to talk to you for a minute. They hunker down behind the truck like they're expecting a fight. Now, I get it that they're former law enforcement, and maybe that's what they thought that was correct to do, but they're not law enforcement now. And the correct thing to do here, which they did call the cops, but that was only a little bit of what they should have done. They should have stayed on the phone with the cops, said, hey, look, we think there's a person here. We think they're burglarizing homes, and we would like to have this person questioned or investigated or searched or whatever because, we saw him go into this home and we saw him come out. The dispatcher on the 911 dispatcher asked them in the call several times, what crime are you alleging he's committed? What are you saying he did? And they just kept saying, he's on video, he's on video, he's on video. Fine. You have him on video, or you think you have him on video. Turn that video over to the police and let them go investigate the situation. It's not your damn job to be the judge, jury, and executioner in this case. And if they had a reasonable suspicion, that's fine. If I see somebody walking around my neighborhood, let's put it, when I lived in the old neighborhood before we moved here, we had a group of guys in a Ford Expedition that were driving up and down our street real slow, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, really slow. I mean, ultra slow. And then all of a sudden, they started driving back and forth really fast, and it was like, okay, that's very weird that they spent about 20, 30 minutes making the block really slowly, and now they're making the block really quickly. So we called the police. The police came over. The car ended up passing the police. The police, right as the police were pulling up to my house to ask me, the car was going the other way. They whipped around, went and pulled him over, went and talked to him, and then they came back to me, and they said, okay, this is what's going on. And okay, we talked to them about speeding because they shouldn't be speeding through the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. But okay, they're moving in or they're doing housework over here, XYZ, they're doing this, that, and this. Okay, reasonable. I didn't go stand in the middle of the street and try to stop the car with my 6-shooters on my hip. I stayed on my front porch where I could see them going back and forth, and I called the police. And I said, this is the license plate number, this is the vehicle color, this is the approximate year model, X, Y, and Z, so that when you get here, if you see it, which as soon as they got there, they saw it, they went after them. The police did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. Not my job to go hunt people down and try to exact whatever justice I feel is necessary.
Yep, very well spoken, man. And glad that it turned out safe for you and that nothing came out about it with that. I mean, we've had situations like that here locally, and you'll see the little Facebook group go, "Hey, I've seen this car doing this. I've seen that car doing that," and then, "Hey, I called the cops," and okay, they were doing something. And unfortunately we've had a couple trucks have their tires stolen in the neighborhood. So, if you have a nice truck with nice tires in my neighborhood, you might want to park it in the garage. So,
or put a wheel lock on it at least.
Get a wheel lock on them or something, because I think that's happened now 3 or 4 times. We've had someone with nice wheels, nice rims come out to their truck being on bricks in the morning. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I worked at a car dealership right before I moved to Midland, while I was kind of waiting to get officially hired onto this job. And we showed up to the car dealership one morning, and the entire line of vehicles was without tires. And they literally took the fence apart because it was, and you came to the dealership because I sold you a car, but they had railroad ties as the fencing. They literally took the fence apart to set the vehicles on. It was like, you jackasses, you. But, I mean, how the hell you didn't get caught doing that? But you didn't, so it was one of those things like, okay, well, every vehicle in the parking lot gets wheel locks now so that this doesn't happen again, and we get to make a humongous insurance claim and hope that they pay for all this crap.
Yeah, I mean, my car that you sold me does have a wheel lock, so yeah, I got that going for me.
Yeah, there you go. You got free wheel locks because some jackass showed up at the dealership and stole every tire from every vehicle on that line that was close to the fence. And
it's probably some asshole salesperson gypped him on a deal, so he decided to come in and exact revenge on the lemon that Ross sold him. So there you go.
I didn't sell many cars while I was there. Nobody complained as of this point. But that's beside the point. So, guys, again, we do have a very big show coming up this Thursday. This Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time, we have United States Congressman for Texas Congressional District 21, Chip Roy. He will be joining us. It will be a live stream. We will be taking questions from you guys over all this. And as you may have seen, I have again redesigned our platform background and everything else.
Don't like it as much. I'll be honest. Nah, not feeling it. It's too dark.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of got to either make it super bright or super dark so that the logo stands out in conjunction with it.
I mean, there's other things you could do. Well, pictures, flags.
We'll play around with it some more, but yeah, we're trying to make it better. So, there's.
I prefer the white over this. Let's put it that way. If you're going to ask me one or the other, I'm going to say white.
Okay.
I'd rather have the flag.
Well, we can still put a flag on this. It's not outside.
I'd rather just have the whole background be the flag, but whatever. All right. Well, since we're getting there, Ross, where can they find you on Twitter?
Well, if you look right below my picture, you'll see.
Is it at Ross Schumann?
It's at Ross Schumann, which is at Romeo Oscar Sierra Charlie Hotel Uniform Mike Alpha November on Twitter.
And I'm Kyle Schumann 08, and you can find me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram under that same handle. I somehow miraculously was able to grab all 3 same handle, which is hard to do nowadays if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So for all of you guys who are not subscribed to the channel, please do. We are gaining subscribers every day. we're trying to get to the point where we can do super chats or other things and get a little more media exposure on YouTube, get them to push our videos a little bit more. So if you've got a Facebook group full of conservative minds that, you know, think that they want to see great interviews by two conservative guys or whatever else, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because it's not just us, right? It's Harley Strictly Politics. It's Forum. It's us. And it's a lot of other content. It's the Friday Night Comfy Post that we put out. And not all of it is in YouTube format like Kyle and I do. Kyle and I like to do live streams. It's fun for us. We like to interact with people when we can, when we get, you know, enough viewers that want to comment on the videos. But
where you at, Dan Johns?
Come on, Dan John. But when we get
You're my boy Blue.
You're my boy Blue. When we get that, it's great. But when not, we still enjoy doing the live streams because it's quick and easy and it doesn't take a lot of editing, and neither one of us knows how to do it, to be fair. So I mean, we'll say what you need to say. You know, if you were married to John Mayer, you would just tell him, say what you need to say. And so that being said,
Say something up on you.
Not John Mayer. At all.
It made sense, okay?
I mean, John Mayer literally has a song that says, say what you need to say.
I don't know that
Say
song.
what you need to say. I mean,
I knew the say something, I'm giving up on you.
Okay, I got that part.
Yeah.
I figured that out, but that's
I got you. Yeah.
zero to do with what I was discussing. Okay. Great that you remembered that song at that moment. Because
hey, you and I both grew up going to Aggie baseball. We don't know a lot of songs, but we know a lot of song clips. Walk up song, baby. Walk up songs.
I can sing 30 seconds of anything. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 30 seconds. 30 seconds of everything.
Relevant.
Yeah. So guys, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell for all notifications so that you get to know about all the different things we're doing, all the different SBU different things, all the different ZGM things, everything like that. Go to the zero-gravity-media.com website. Take a look there. You can also support us online if you want to. You can help us out financially if you think we need to make the show better in some format. So you could say, hey, I'm going to give you $10, but you've got to use it to do X, Y, and Z with it. And we'll see what we can come up with $10, because you can't get jack shit for $10 in today's world. So, but, you know, other than that, we're going to try to keep getting better and better like we always do, and we're going to try to keep making strides along the way as we go. Guys, we're here, we're trying, we're doing our best. Sometimes we hit the mark, sometimes we miss it by a mile. But
sometimes Ross talks for an hour by himself.
That happens regardless. We're just filming it now.
Yeah.
That's really the only difference.
All right, guys. Well, we've had a pleasure. It's been a blast. Ross, I'm going to make you shut up. We're wrapping. Great. Have a great night. Thanks and gig 'em. Gig 'em and God bless. See you Thursday. Don't want to miss out. Chip Roy, Texas 21. It's coming, boys.
There you go.
It's coming.
Thursday, 7 p.m. Make sure you're there. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great night.
I just keep calling on the help of my peers, but their success makes me distressed. Things will be better when I disappear, bouncing from city to state. Nothing feels great, I'm a committed disgrace. If I could get up, hold my chin up, confidence is just a bluff for the weak. Might take a peek in my self-pity to realize it's selfishness for the meek. Just take these pills, it makes it better, but withdrawals will make you see.